Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Armchair GMs brought to you by Jocks of All Trades podcast. I'm Bugman Jay,
I'm Matt.
and we're here to help you guys with what are we doing today, Matt?
We are covering defense and kickers. These are positions that are sometimes undervalued
Yes.
in fantasy leagues, but more often than not, they can get you some points when you don't expect it. In other ways too, they can kind of bring you down as far as defense goes. But
Yeah,
we're hoping to pass some information on to you to help you guys with maybe selecting the right defense and or kicker.
definitely. Because I can tell you, unless you pick a really stellar defensive kicker, you're really not really banking on them to really help you do too much in the week. I've seen a couple weeks where I've floated without a kicker, but I can tell you this much: a good defensive kicker can break some ties for you and win some tiebreakers. You know, so they're definitely valuable in any league. They're valuable to have. So I hope that we can give you guys today will definitely be of benefit. And so before we can do anything, we have to start from the beginning. Let's get on with the ads. And let's start with the first ad. We have Fresh Cuts. Fresh Cuts is a local barber shop in Marion, Indiana. Contact Caleb Kemper for an appointment time through www.freshcutsbarbershop.com because it's not just a haircut, it's an experience. All right. Moving on to the next slide, we have Stuart. Stuart. Got Stuart on the brain today. Steve Wood Illustrations. Here for all your art needs from Star Wars to GI Joe and beyond. See him for all the nerds in your life who you just aren't sure what to get for him. Sometimes, man, I've said it before. I'm a nerd. I'm hard to shop for because there's a lot of things that just really don't pique my fancy, but you give me some good art, sports memorabilia, like artwork done, or maybe some uh, World of Warcraft type stuff. I might be into it. But anyway, moving right along. Slide number 4, it's from Culture Corner. Our friends from Afro Latinos are changing things up. Check out the Culture Corner podcast featuring Abin and Shaylin and hear from them soon as they are still currently under construction. They're not ready to come back out yet, but as soon as they are, we will be letting you guys know. All right, on to our next ad. This is Rules of the Frame. It's another friend cast specializing in movie reviews of pretty much anything there is. Connor will soon be a guest on our other show, Smash Popcorn, and we will look forward to collaborating with him. I'm getting sneak peeks. Maybe I should not have done the ads today. I'm just saying. I
It's all good. It's all good. We'll get through it.
Yes, we'll get through it. And last but certainly not least, A Thousand Wives of Weird is just that weird. From reviews of weird movies to criticizing bad movie choices, Brad H. and Billy Martell will keep you entertained and laughing for hours on end. Check them out exclusively on Spotify. All right, getting a little bit better. I ended that one out. Here we go. And that is the ads for the day. All right, Matt, I like to start just about every topic with the old rando question of the day. It's not even football related. My question of the day for you, bud, is how you doing?
I'm doing just fine, man. Feel accomplished today. Got the yard work done before some of the rain came in, so that slight sense of accomplishment in my book. I'll take it. How about yourself, bud?
Well, I can tell you this. I was able to go to work. get a good decent amount of work done today. But I have not been able to do yard work because I live in South Georgia, you know, kind of close, really close to Florida, actually, like 15, 20 miles away. So we probably get a lot of bad weather from the Gulf. And right now we're getting a lot of rain. So it's rained every day, at least once a day, for about 2.5 weeks.
I was gonna say I got lucky. I figured today was the day to do it, so got up and knocked it out, and then rain came in for about 20 minutes, and now it's hot and humid again. So
Yeah. The one thing I can say, all this weather, what it does do, it does allow us to have a little bit, have a break from the really, really hot weather. Because it doesn't really normally get above 90, 92 when it's rainy season around here. So, because when it's dry season, it's 100. So I'll take the
ooh,
90 all day.
no thanks, no thanks.
All right. I don't, if I seem a little short, guys, and Matt, if I seem a little short, I'm not particularly golden on picking a good defense because it's kind of hard. It's been kind of hard for me in the past to keep a. I can keep a consistent kicker. It's really been hard for me to pick defenses. This defense really hasn't really had any championships in the last couple of years, but hopefully this will change. Taking a little deeper dive since I'm looking at it from this side of the spear, so to speak. So maybe this extra insight will help me also become better at picking in leagues. Because have you started picking yet?
No, actually, I kind of am in the same boat you're in. I've been known to change defenses on like every 2 weeks or so.
Yeah,
Um,
there's
because
a lot.
like what'll end up happening is I get a defense, they're good for about 2 weeks, and then they start tanking. But then there's another defense I pick up on the waiver wire that just picks up the slack. So it's definitely a it's definitely a different perspective looking into it like in depth, especially today when making my notes. So yeah, kickers on the other hand, listen, I kind of base my pick on kickers as far as like how consistent their offense is. Because if you don't have a generally good offense, you're at least for me, kickers tend to like not do as well as what their offense could do.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So it's like we're gonna get into it a lot with kickers. Want to give you guys a good hour and a half of good fantasy help. So without further ado, let's get started. And here we go. Our list is pretty much. I got a couple discrepancies with the way you picked, but all in all, I, I feel pretty confident about where in the preseason, well, preseason, how I see the defense is kind of stacking up, you know, in top 12. Even if I was to go to half PPR and not PPR, there probably wouldn't be many changes, especially as it being defense. I kind of want to start um, at the bottom
okay,
with your 9 through 12. Um, the only real discrepancies is I see a team I have in my top 7 barely scraping in at number 12, and I kind of want to know why you are so down on Miami. Okay, I guess it's my first question.
the only reason being is that while their secondary is tremendous. Like I was looking at some of the stats for their secondary. First off, I want to be proven wrong in this. I
Of
want
course.
Miami to exceed my expectations. I think they should be ranked higher. It was hard for me to put them up above like Green Bay, definitely above Indy. Um, it was hard for me to put them like in place of Denver. So I want to be wrong. I think by season's end, I will be proven wrong. But their secondary, you're talking about Xavier Howard. He had 50 tackles last year, 5 interceptions, 1 TD. Byron Jones, 58 tackles. Didn't have any interceptions, but he's a great pass deflector. Brandon Jones, he's a stud at safety. Javon Holland. Now, I was looking at the stats at this guy. I didn't realize he was a rookie last year. I think after the season he had last year, he's going to be special this time next year. Looking at his stats, he had 69 tackles, 10 pass deflections, um, three fumbled recoveries, 2 interceptions, and 7 QB hits, 2.5 sacks. Like that's as a rookie. As a rookie safety, you're making that type of impact already. Um, but I don't really know enough. I don't know if I really trust their linebacker core enough. Maybe again, that's why I said I want to be proven wrong about me putting Miami at 12.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna defend. I guess I'm gonna go ahead and defend why I put them at number 7.
Okay, go for
it. It's just the pedigree a little bit. It's really the small things for me. To have a team who can play at all 3 levels effectively in an elite level is very rare. And they're one of the few teams that are stack up pretty well against many other offensive lines. And when you look at their ability to create pass rush, they were third in quarterback pressures last year, which is a big step up. In interceptions, they finished at number 4 in 2019, 2020, and in 2021 they finished 6th overall. And I can't see them falling any more farther than 7 if they haven't made any dramatic changes and shifts. No one's left. They've only brought in new talent. So I can only see a much stiffer defense from them this year. So I may be a little low on Miami's defense. It's just all really depends on how well the offense works. The offense keeps the defense off the field, they stay healthy longer.
Absolutely.
So that's where I am with them.
Now, I want to, and it was hard for me to keep this team off my top 12. I noticed you put Minnesota at 11.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's discuss that a little bit because I'm a Vikings fan and I'm hopeful, but I wanted to get your input on that. Huh?
Okay, last year they did finish 16th last year, and overall, but they had 16 interceptions, 8 fumble recoveries, 4 touchdowns defensively, 51 sacks. The only Achilles heel was really their run game because their pass game was 252.9 a game, which is not great, but that's average quarterback play in the league. If you're coming in letting someone throw 250, maybe 1-2 touchdowns, you can dunk on you. That means your defense did a little bit. At least your pass defense did, but the run defense. But I think they're going to refortify. I think they have a little bit refortified the interior of the defensive line. And I think I see a higher ceiling for them, being the pedigree more than anything else. I don't think the offense is going to be nearly as stagnant as it was last year. I don't think it'll be as run first or as run heavy. So it will give Kirk Cousins a chance to be Kirk Cousins, Mr. Super Efficient, and they're going to be subpar 9-8. 10-17, but that will allow them to bump up a little bit and be a little bit better defense. And I think that secondary is going to be able to get to the ball a little bit more. I'm just a little wary on their run defense.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only reason why I kept them out of my top 12 is they've been inconsistent the past few seasons. When you look at what Minnesota did last year as a team, not just defense, not just offense, as a team, look at Kirk Cousins' numbers. He didn't have bad numbers.
No.
It was just our defense was giving up, 28, 30 points a game. And, that's not going to help you. Not to mention, we lost Anthony Barr. He's still in the free agent market right now. I am hopeful, though, since we added to Darius Smith. But, with our linebacker core, it's a little up in the air. I mean, Eric Kendricks, as great of a player as he is, I didn't know this until I looked at it. Eric Kendricks has not played a full season in his career. And, he's getting older. And, at a linebacker, you could have all the weapons you need, but Eric Kendricks, I believe, is, quite is the captain of that defense, the captain of that linebacker core. If he's not in there, I feel like, it kind of falls apart a little bit. You got to have that leader, that captain to, lead the defense to how it needs to perform.
There you go.
So I think that's why I left him out. But trust me, it was hard. It was very hard.
Yeah, it's the tough decisions that have to be made sometimes when you feel the development of a team is not to the point where it can stack up against some of the offenses that it's playing against. You are in a hard. Minnesota is in a hard division. They do have to play Green Bay twice a year. So that's always going to be that thing. Chicago's not playing as well at all, so that's a gimme. That's a toss-up. It all depends on how well you can manage the run game.
In Detroit, they're kind of in a
like
they're building, they're getting the pieces that they need, but they're still in that building stage. So it's kind of going to be
there's not much established talent there, so it's not really going to be. It shouldn't really be an uphill battle to take those two teams. It's just being able to take Green Bay and those other powerhouse run teams that they're going to have to face. Their schedule is not as easy as it would be made to seem. So it's going to be a test.
Oh yeah,
I see potential.
Now, let's talk about Indy for a minute. You have them at 9. I have them at 10. Let's hear some of your points behind them, and then I'll throw in mine.
Well, Indianapolis has a sneaky good defense, man. Their defense is not too shabby. They finished 3rd last year. They did only have 33 sacks, which is not the best. But their defense only allowed an average 21.5 points a game. So that and their offense and their quarterback for their offense last year was Carson Wentz. And they were able to get that much production. Only 109 yards a game. Their money was interceptions. They had 19, 3 touchdowns, 14 fumble recoveries, 234.1 passing yards per game. I don't see a huge regression, but I do see the need for the elite talent on that defense to stand up because they easily could be maybe 6 or 7 if everything was clicking. They were just so super uber efficient last year that there's going to be a little bit of positive regression for the interceptions and turnovers because they amassed a lot of turnovers last year. And that's going to regress a little bit, but they're going to get to the fundamentals and they're going to become a better team because the offense is quite possibly going to be a little bit better this year with Matt Ryan. Not me being any biased, me being a Atlanta fan, but I just feel like they're going to get to the ball a little bit more and they're going to hopefully be able to draw a little bit more sacks. The defensive line needs to step up a little bit. But what about you? Why do you have them at 10?
I wanted to put them higher. I almost flip-flopped them with Denver there and actually put them at 9. But for me, like you said, a sneaky defense that just wow. They were able to make things happen last year, even with Carson Wentz as their quarterback. Looking at some of the, in my mind, defensive standouts, you had DeForest Buckner,
Mm-hmm.
big old nasty defensive tackle. 68 tackles, 7 sacks, 10 tackles for loss. And then Darius Leonard, in my opinion, I think he's the best defender or defensive player that Indy has.
Mhm.
I mean, I was looking at his stats: 122 tackles, 75 of those were solo tackles, and 47 were combined. 4 tackles for loss, 15 sacks, 4 interceptions, 8 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries.
Mhm.
Like, I think that was only his 3rd year in the league, if I'm not mistaken. And like, I think he's stepping into his prime. I think he's gonna have a hell of a year. And I think towards the latter part, if he has a year like he did last year, towards the latter part of this season, I think you're talking possible defensive player of the year. It's just, can he build on to what he was doing last year? Now, as far as their secondary goes, I mean, yeah, it's Stephon Gilmore this offseason. He's, in my opinion, Stephon Gilmore's past his prime. He's an aging, he's an aging corner, but he can still contribute. I mean, they brought in Xavier Rhodes a couple years back, and he did tremendous things. It broke my heart to see him leave Minnesota, but I was happy to see him come to Indy and do the things that he could do for that defense. Um, but looking at Stephon Gilmore's numbers last year, just in 8 games, he had 16 tackles and 2 interceptions. I mean, I hope that he can have the same sort of similar success that Xavier Rhodes did, but time will tell. I mean, with certain positions like corner, like running back, so on and so forth, the older you get, the more you're kind of, teetering down. So, yeah, I think the secondary is what kept me from putting Indy higher. I mean,
Mhm.
even though they posted great numbers for interceptions, I think that mainly came for their linebacker core and able to put pressure on quarterbacks the way that they did.
Well, I don't necessarily. I think it's just a little bit of the zone scheme because their pressure rate was 31st at 18%. So it's not as if they were getting a lot of pressure. It was just the scheme that they ran was very, very interception happy because they got the pop ups and short yardage interceptions, and that's not the best division they play in either. So take your pick.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
but I think that there's going to be a little bit of positive regression as far as turnovers, but I think their pressure rate's going to go up a little bit because they did bring in a new defensive coordinator. He was the coordinator for the Legion of Boom back in from 2009 to 2012. So hopefully he can come in and try to do something good. I really feel like he needs a boost. I really feel like their defensive line in particular needs a boost. If they can get a boost and get a little bit more pressure, especially from the interior, they have a lot of the same questions that Minnesota has, but they're a little bit more fortified than Minnesota is, if that makes any sense. They're a little bit more sure of the spot that they're in my eyes for right now. But that's not to say they couldn't move down or up based on really how that defense gels and really if they take this step forward. Because the turnovers were a big part of their defense last year.
Oh yeah.
All right. We're going to move a little bit up the list. I want to talk about something that I see as going to be a thing that's be a real question is to why I see my screen here. You have the Chargers and the Rams back to back, 3-4, but that's not my real quibble. The real quibble is why you think that the Chargers defense is better than the Rams defense.
Let's see here. Let me get my notes.
Oh yes,
Okay,
I'm ready
so
for this.
the reason why I put the Chargers above the Rams listen, you got Joey Bosa. He's a freak athlete off the edge.
Mm-hmm.
You went out, you got Khalil Mack. I think Khalil Mack at this point in his career is starting to be a little undervalued. I I think he could still play. I think he could still ball out. I look for him to silence the doubters this year and prove why he was a defensive player of the year for a few years ago. You beefed up your defensive tackles with Sebastian Joseph Day and Austin Johnson. Are they Aaron Donald? No, you're not going to match Aaron Donald's talent level. Like you're not.
There you go.
But what really stood out to me and why I put the Chargers slightly above the Rams is their secondary. Sure, Los Angeles or the Rams have Jalen Ramsey, arguably best corner. Well, I would say top 3 corners in the league right now.
What about Jordan Fuller? You're just gonna discount Jordan Fuller? He doesn't
I'm
exist.
not going to discount him. I'm not going to discount him. But you had Derwin James.
Uh huh.
You have Asante Samuel Jr.
Mm-hmm.
already making an impact in the league.
Mm-hmm.
You have Nasser Adderley, and now you're bringing in J.C. Jackson, who let's see, I think he's a premier ball hawk. In 2021, with New England, he had 8 interceptions. That's and then in 2020 he had 9 interceptions. Like the secondary is the reason why I put the Chargers above the Rams slightly. I think they can go toe to toe, but if I'm looking for like pressure on the line, pressure from the linebacker core, and great coverage from the defense or from the great coverage from your secondary, I think I would take the Chargers.
Okay. Well, I can get your argument. I just believe in that pass rush a little bit too much, I think, but I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna stick with my guns. I'm gonna stick with my guns that you're gonna see a team that hasn't had a first round draft pick over 3 years to really come up and stack up against some of these chumps in our division. I really feel like we have a lot of talent. Saying we like I'm a Rams fan, but I'm not. But right now I am. I'm advocating for them right now to be number one defense because they're going to have the number one offense. They're going to have the number one defense. That is my big take of the day. That is my take of the day, right there.
You heard it here, folks.
You heard it here first. All right, but on a serious note, I know that they're really filling up their talent pool with a lot of different players that aren't necessarily the cream of the crop as far as their draft picks, and they really signed a lot of players through free agency as well. But I just believe now the defensive line, man, and the linebacker core, the secondary is really going to have to step up and show me a little bit more for me to really believe in them beyond 4. Because I see them at 4. It's the same place you see them. But my holdup is also with the secondary, with the Chargers. Will it be better with all the money that we're throwing at these players? Will it be worse? I'm going to have to see it. I'm going to have to see that defense gel before I really move them up in the top 5. They're dangerous now. But Bolt just had his list of nicks and injuries. Defense hasn't always been the best when it matters the most. They've let me down a couple weeks, but they've gotten a lot better. They've gotten a lot better, and I can't take that away from them. But I just don't see them as being as high as number 3. I'm willing to be wrong. Or could they potentially also be a better defense than the Rams? Yeah, it's a very likely chance they will be. But I'm not banking on it because I've been let down before, and you have to kind of see a little bit before you really step in that. At least in my mind. And also, I see one more thing. Why you hate Pittsburgh?
See, I was about to bring that up, actually. I was literally, because you have them at 3.
Mm-hmm.
I have them at 7. It's not so much hate on Pittsburgh, because I'll just go ahead and spoil it now. I do have him as a sleeper for
Mm-hmm.
defenses this year. However, what scares me, and we talked about it with the team prior, um, I feel like that defense is going to be on the field a little too much this year, and they're going to kind of slip a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, they have players like T.J. Watt, who's also a monster. I mean, I think he was Defensive Player of the Year this past season. He had 22 and a half sacks, 64 tackles, 5 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, 7 pass deflections, and 21 tackles for loss. You have an aging Cameron Hayward, which he had a hell of a year as well last year. I didn't notice it until I looked at the stats. 89 tackles, 10 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception
Hmm.
for a defensive tackle, and 9, count them, 9 passes deflected. In my mind, that's impressive for a 32-year-old defensive tackle.
There you go. See,
Um,
that's the spirit that I take along with me when I that's the kind of, because they had 55 sacks last year,
mhm,
13 interceptions, 9 fumble recoveries, just 1 touchdown. They averaged about 23 and a half. They allowed about 23 and a half points a game. They're Their rushing defense is what scares me, but it's the Steelers. They're consistently a very good team.
absolutely.
Very good defense. Let me not overspeak a little bit. Because last year their rushing per game was 111.4. Their sacks were 56 last year. It's the year prior, 2020. So I don't really feel like they'll, because they're historically a very good run defense team,
Hmm.
and they're historically good at just being a solid team overall. I don't think Mike
Absolutely.
Tomlin's going to let that team go too far. And I think this year they're going to have to lean on the defense a little bit more because of the limited offense. But I think they get it together sooner rather than later, because if they could lug out a 9-7, 9-8 season with Ben Roethlisberger having a noodle for an arm, I'm pretty sure they can make something out of either Mitch Trubisky or, you know, little Andy.
Absolutely. I was going to say that's the other reason why they're not as high as I personally would like them,
Mm-hmm.
because I think there's too many questions on the offense, and in my mind, no offense leads to a tired defense, and
There you
you
go.
know I wanted to put them higher, I did, but that offense scares me, and I think it's going to tire that defense out, good chunk of the season.
I think they can make a recovery. Um, like there's a pretty good system, I believe, in Pittsburgh, and
Oh yeah,
uh, it just takes a quarterback being just above average. It's got to be above average. You know, nothing against Mason Rudolph. He's just not above average.
right.
So, all right, we're gonna try to
I
wrap
was going to
this.
say let's talk about this real quick.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our top two defenses.
Mm-hmm.
You have Tampa Bay at number one. I have
Yes.
Buffalo at number one. So we
Yes.
flip flop there.
Mm-hmm.
Make your let's talk about your claim for Tampa Bay, and then I'll bring up Buffalo here after this.
Tampa Bay being my number one team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, they're consistent. Um, they have their defense has always been underrated. I'm sorry to say they're in my division, but they just play the ball pretty well. They match up against defenses pretty well. They have a pretty good defensive-minded head coach. So, Todd Bowles, and I just feel like that their defense has consistently gotten better each and every year he's been there, because that is the stronghold of just really, whether you're just plugging in Ndamukong Suh a year ago, or you're going to get another mid-grade player just to plug into that defensive line. Once you control the run game, you control everything. And that's the philosophy they bring there, and it's very productive. It's been very, very productive. Last year, they allowed 92.5 rushing yards per game. that is how much they are emphasizing that philosophy. They only allowed 20.8 points a game last year, 47 sacks, um, 238 pass yards per game. Their secondary is not the best, but they're more than serviceable to cover the gaps, to cover the holes. They're quick, and they also they had 17 interceptions and 12 forced fumble recoveries and 2 touchdowns. They finished seventh last year overall, and with the way that the NFC South, their division, has kind of tanked a little bit as far as talent, it's going to be pretty easy for them to run the table and be a pretty good defense. They will have a test. They will start against Dallas, and the Saints. That's their first two matchups. So I really feel like if they dominate both these games, which I foresee them doing, especially when it comes to the Saints, it's going to be we're really going to see who's going to be the real ones. Now, let me hear what you got to say about the Bills because I kind of flip flopped with them a little bit, and it's just the pedigree for me. Nothing against the Bills. It's for me the pedigree of how the defense is established and how they're going to come at you each and every game, and you know what they're going to take away from you. As much as you try, you know what they're going to take away from you. And I just don't think the Bills have done that as much or as well. And that's just my only hope.
I was going to say, like, I flip-flopped a little bit, too, between the Bills and the Buccaneers. Because, like you said, Tampa Bay, this is their first season with Todd Bowles at the helm. He's a defensive-minded coach. I'll give him a lot of credit. I think he's a great defensive-minded coach. The reason why I put Buffalo ahead is because they were the best performing defense last year as far as fantasy goes. You bring in Von Miller. He's getting older, yeah. There's no doubt about that. Some of our favorite players, they're getting older. I mean, that's part of life. That's part of the game. It is what it is. But I think he's still effective. I think he can still contribute, or I think he can still contribute. If nothing else, he can definitely help with possibly developing the linebacker core. Since that core is a little bit younger, you have Greg Rousseau. I think he has tremendous athleticism off the line. Jermaine Edwards, great leader, strong defensive presence. Tre'Davious White, he's a great corner. Sure, he had a torn ACL. That may affect his capabilities, but I think he can still, shut down wide receivers when he needs to. You drafted Kaiir Elam. I think he has a lot of raw talent. He's a Florida product, in my opinion, because I watch Florida football, pretty faithfully, aside from Michigan football as well. I see a lot of similarities to Joe Hayden, which Joe Hayden was a great corner for a lot of years between Pittsburgh and his time in Cleveland as well. But I think the major contributing factor for Buffalo is Micah Hyde. I mean, he's been a consistent, strong defender since going to Buffalo, and honestly, you're talking that defense is probably going to be fresh all year long because you're going to have a consistent Buffalo offense with Josh Allen at the helm, to where Buffalo's defense will stay fresh, all 17 games of the season in my mind. So I think that's why I put them slightly above the Buccaneers. But yeah, we'll see. Not to mention the division. Not to take away from the AFC East, but it's one of those, like, you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, especially with the Jets. I mean, they could throw a lot of turnovers to any team in that division, and Buffalo usually gets lucky with that. And I don't know. I think that's why I put Buffalo above, just barely above the Buccaneers.
I can see it. You're right. They have a lot. They have a lot. They have a lot of talent in Buffalo. There we go. They have a lot of talent there, but it's emerging talent.
Mm-hmm.
So they're on the forefront now. Now, I want to see how they match up this year in the AFC because the AFC has gotten a lot tougher.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers have gotten better. Um, let's run off a little list. I don't. Baltimore is still elite, but Cincy has gotten better. So there's going to be more challenges now for them to kind of move to the top of the pecking order, and it's going to be a real test. I really feel that Buffalo has the keys to go a lot farther than a lot of the other teams in the AFC, just based on the overall overflow of talent they have right now. And so I can easily see their defense being number one, but I have them at number two because I just really have to see it a little bit more. It's like
Mm-hmm.
show me once, I might believe you. Show me twice, you got me. If they can show me again that they can do it, I really do feel that they can be the best team in the AFC, if not in the NFL. All right, let's see.
All right. So shall we move on to our sleepers?
Yes. All right. Is
This
this
is your list.
okay? All right. Yes. Cleveland Browns. All right. Short and simple. They sport the easiest schedule by far in the NFL. Their defense is really, really, really good. But what is my only issue is what is the chemistry like there? What is how do they say it? What is the how are how are they feeling there? Are they sold in, or are they all in to trying to make this team better, or are we just still waiting on Sean Watson to see what's going on with this? Are we starting the year with Jacoby Brissett, under the helm? Is Deshaun Watson going to get suspended? What's going on? I'm on the fringe because don't know what the offense is going to be. But their defense is really good. How long can they be that good if they're on the field over half the game? So I'm kind of on the fence a little bit. Denver, they were a top 12 defense last year. They scored one of the best defenses in the AFC. That's another one of those teams that's gotten better really quickly. And they also drafted really well with Bradley Chubb. They did lose Von Miller a little while ago, but they've also been able to promote new talent. And they draft, as I said, very well. So, top 12 defense, I'm looking to see them kind of fill in a couple holes that they've free agency and things have left behind. But if they can kind of pull it together in a tough, kind of not as hard, but it's kind of hard conference now in the AFC West. It's kind of the wild wild west out there. Not, no pun intended, but
I was gonna say this one I'm interested about. Arizona.
yeah. You can you not see it? Can you not see
After
Arizona?
looking at the stats from 2021, I can now. I don't know if I'm gonna go right out and pick them up,
All right.
come draft day, but I see your point.
The last two seasons, consistently they're pretty slack on the run, and they're pretty okay. They're always pretty okay against the pass. Nothing to write home about. They've averaged about 21, 22 points a game over the last two seasons. Sacks took a dip last year. They were only 41 sacks. The year prior, they had 48. Interceptions went up. Two fumbles. Their defense is consistent. They get consistent pressure, and they can get to the quarterback. And that's one thing you need in the NFC West. You need to be able to attack a little bit. You need to be able to put pressure, whether it be from the interior or the exterior, and they can do it. It's just whether or not the offense is going to click this year. They have so many weapons on that offensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So many. And can they keep the defense fresh a little bit? That's my only.
I was gonna say I could definitely see it, and I agree with you, wholeheartedly. I mean, it's got to depend on that offense.
Yeah.
If that offense can stay healthy, stay consistent, then yeah, I see Arizona's defense, surprising us out of nowhere.
It's not that surprising. They finished 10th in 2021. I mean, 2020, and they finished 11th in 2021. So
No. I mean, like, I'm thinking more so like possibly getting the top 8. I know that's a stretch.
no,
I
it
I I
could
I, I
happen.
won't put them in top 5.
Okay, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
because it's going to be kind of hard to kind of consistently make that kind of production in the NFC. So I think it would
yeah,
be if I had to take a team, I think that would be easier for them if I had to either pick both Denver or Arizona, which would be the easier pick. If I had to put enough in week 12, I would kind of take Denver
okay.
just because their defense just stacks up a little bit better against some of these offenses that they're going to see than Arizona. Arizona has a couple more holes in their defense, but there's room for improvement in both sides. So I could easily see Arizona somewhere hovering around 9, 8, possibly even 7 if everything's clicking. All right, we're moving on to
All
your.
right.
You got the floor, bro.
My sleepers, I already touched on Pittsburgh a little bit. Listen, they have the least amount of traveling to do this year in the NFL. I think that's going to bode well for them because, I mean, you won't have that jet lag feeling. Now, granted, yes, I did talk about, their defense possibly being a little tired, but it's not from, traveling. It's a matter of, whether or not um, that offense can stay on the field and keep the defense off and keep them fresh. I already touched on the numbers of T.J. Watt and Cameron Hayward. There is one other player I want to discuss though, and that's Minka Fitzpatrick. Let me get my let me get my notes. Here we go. Let's see. Minka Fitzpatrick, 124 tackles, 84 solo, 40 combined. 2 interceptions. He had 7 pass deflections. Listen, I think he's done some great things in his time in Pittsburgh, and I think you know you have great uh, defensive presence on the line. You have a decent secondary,
Yes.
and we already touched. Pittsburgh is known for having a stout defense. Now you're talking they're not gonna be traveling a whole lot. That bodes well. I mean, you're not gonna have tired players, so I think I think it's going to be really well, or it's going to bode really well for Pittsburgh. Now, Denver, we're on the same boat there. They surprised the crap out of me last year. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
picked them up on the waiver wire, and they just did some great things. I think a lot of that had to do with Patrick Surtain Jr. as a rookie. You already touched on Bradley Chubb. Granted,
Yeah.
he has some durability issues, but he can make things happen when he's on the field. But Patrick Surtain as a rookie, 4 interceptions and 1 touchdown, 14 pass deflections. I mean, it might listen, as a rookie, I think those are
Yeah.
pretty decent numbers.
Yes.
They're not, Hall of
Jaw
Fame
chopper.
numbers, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But they're a start.
but
They're a
yeah,
start. They're
they're a
definitely
start.
impactful. Impact. They in those stat lines are things that impact the game. So he had
Oh
an
yeah,
impact as a rookie. So I really feel like their team is building towards something that can really sustain itself for a period of time. It's not just something that's going to be fleeting. It's something you
exactly.
could probably possibly bank on. They surprise a lot of people.
But I think he's going to be an elite, corner in the next, couple seasons. Just watch out once he starts, as he starts building towards a better career, like from year to year.
Here you go.
And now, Baltimore Ravens as
Yeah.
my third sleeper. They made a number of moves to rebuild and strengthen that defense, in my mind. starting with the draft. You took Jordan Davis. That's all that needs to be said. You got Kyle Hamilton. Granted, we'll see how their rookie seasons play out, but
There you go.
they made they made impacts for their college teams. We talked about it a few weeks back. When the draft was taking place, Kyle Hamilton, he's your plug and play type of guy. Jordan Davis is just a monster on the D line. And Baltimore is known for having a strong defense anyway. And
Yep.
I would honestly say that Baltimore is going to sneak into the top 12.
Is that
By
your bold
season,
prediction, Matt?
that is my bold prediction. By season's end, I could see Baltimore being in the top 12.
Oh my goodness.
It's
Oh
bold.
my goodness.
It's bold, but I'm
You
going
just
for
said
it.
that. You just said that.
Yes,
All
I
right.
did.
All right. We're going.
Mark this day, and we'll see how it goes towards season's end.
Yes, sir. All right. All right. Oh man.
And our
We're gonna start with,
underperformers.
yes, we're gonna start with a big old gut punch right here. I'm sorry.
Ugh. Yeah, I saw this.
Ooh, my goodness. These just true nightmares. But anyway, I'm starting with Kansas City. They have the toughest schedule of any team. It starts right off the jump. It's just too many questions on defense. They made too many changes, and I just don't see the same production. They were eighth last year. They only had 31 sacks. They weren't as good on the run. They were turnover. They were a turnover machine. That is true. They generated 15 interceptions, 14 fumble recoveries, and 4 touchdowns. But they start right out the jump playing at Arizona, then week 2, Chargers at home, at Indy, at Tampa Bay. Week 5 they're in Las Vegas. Week 6 they're in Buffalo. They get maybe some sort of break at San Francisco. So that is a very tough schedule to have to maneuver through for any defense. And I just really feel like they're going to be lacking a little bit in their capacity to kind of really take over the game as they need to. So I'm kind of out on Kansas City. I might pick them up on the waiver wire if my main team's on the bye, but I'm not going out picking them, figuring them to hold me down for any significant amount of time, especially not in the beginning weeks. I may consider them, like I said, towards the end, but definitely not in the first 6 weeks. That's right in danger for their team. And the Falcons, they suck. That's it. They just suck. They lack elite talent. Last year, they only generated 18 sacks. They suck. They completely and utterly suck. Any list I looked at, the consensus was they were at the bottom of every single statistical analysis list of fantasy DST. They said, do not pick the Atlanta Falcons. You will be wasting your time. And I am telling you right now, I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. They have not finished better than 22nd since 2018. They have not finished better than 22nd since 2017.
Oof. Oof.
But if you catch them before they have a good week, then maybe you'll win. But if you try to catch them and pick them up after they've had a good week, you've already missed it. And that's just the way it is. And that's just the same way with I see the Houston Texans and Atlanta in the same exact boat. What I said for Houston, the only difference with Houston, they generate a little bit more pressure. But as far as being a good team, they suck too. They got 32 sacks last year. So It's not terrible, but their run defense is abysmal. They have really not a lot of experience. When we were talking about them in the draft, they basically needed an elite player from every position they had. So they're rebuilding just like Atlanta's rebuilding. The only caveat is if I had to pick a defense out of the three, I would probably take the Texans. I wouldn't take the Chiefs because it's just too tough.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have a lot of high-powered offenses, and I don't have any faith. They have too many questions. There you are. All right, you got.
I was gonna say for me, I only had two. One of them was Chicago Bears.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many questions with that defense. Not
Yes.
enough answers.
Not enough.
Not enough answers.
Not enough space. Their best player by far is Khalil Mack. So that's
on.
He
went to the Chargers. Well, it was traded to the Chargers.
Yes. I lost my loop on that. Yes, they are in a full rebuild. They're going to see what they have in Justin Fields. They might kick.
And the rebuilding, I think it starts not just with the defense; it starts with the offense too.
Yes.
I don't think they made enough moves to improve defense at all. Now you look at their schedule. Week 1 they're going against the Niners. Depending on who's starting, week 1 for San Francisco, they may be able to do something. I doubt it because 49ers, they're that team that, will surprise you. Then, you're talking, you got to play the Packers twice a year. Weeks 3 and 4, you might have a chance, but I still wouldn't, hold on to them. I still wouldn't trust them because, you still got the rest of the season. And looking at their schedule, I mean, it's all right, but I don't have enough trust in Chicago to make or break for a fantasy team.
No.
Now, if we're talking like 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago, absolutely. but no, not this year, not last year. I wouldn't even say next year. I would stay away from the Chicago Bears defense as long as you possibly can.
The whole team, I would just stay away from the Bears.
Well, yeah.
You might get Darnell Mooney in round 12. But
I think I'll take my chances with N'Keal Harry.
Oh, wow. Shots fired. Shots fired.
Now, with my second, bust, I'm going to say it's the Washington Commanders, a.k.a. Washington football team.
There you go.
In my mind, they are the weakest team in the NFC East.
They have zero culture.
Yeah, no culture at all. And again, I don't feel like they made enough moves to improve defensively. Yeah, you have Chase Young, but one player isn't. One player is not going to make a break.
They have Sweat.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him.
They have a good tandem now. The thing that makes or breaks me the most is that they have Carson Wentz as their quarterback, and it's going to slow down their offense. It's going to slow down their offense a lot. But if you look at the track record, the teams that play the most similarly together are the Indianapolis Colts and the Washington Commanders. Their defense kind of plays similarly, so it could be a positive progression for them. Their defense could get better if Carson Wentz can stay average Carson Wentz and control the clock a little bit like he did in the beginning of the season last year.
That's a tall order.
He has a habit of just torpedoing.
Yeah. And it's out of nowhere, too.
Yeah, it's just torpedoes.
I think that's why, I think Washington's defense is going to, underperform a little bit. If you look at their schedule, I mean, it's not bad. Like,
because they're in a bad defense. I mean, bad conference division.
Yeah. But you look at the first half of their schedule. I mean, you're talking the Jaguars, you're talking the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
You might be able to pull something off.
Yeah.
Week 3, 4, and 5, you got Eagles, Cowboys, and Titans. I I could see them stumbling quite a bit,
Yeah.
especially if the Eagles, come out firing like everyone's expecting them to.
There you go.
Uh, and it doesn't get any easier after that, except for maybe playing the Bears, on let's see, that's week 6. But then it jumps right back into, in my opinion, pure hell for them after that. So I think two teams to stay away from: Chicago Bears, Washington Commanders, aka Washington Football Team. I don't think they made enough moves to improve defensively. So
All right. I can definitely second that. Just like I said before, it doesn't seem like the culture really moving in a progressive way there. So I'm using a lot of woke words today. I'm sorry. All right, and we're moving on. All right, kickers. All right, now full disclosure from me. I speak solely for myself in this one. Um, I rank kickers maybe 1, 2, 3, and everybody else kind of starts to look the same. I've got to kind of differentiate a little bit between some of these guys because some of them are really established talent. Some established talent has fallen off. And there's a guy that I have on my list that I would probably never put on my list, but you have him on your list, and that's Will Lutz.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? Why do you like Will Lutz? why do you like Will Lutz? Nobody likes Will Lutz, and you like Will Lutz.
I like Will Lutz because, listen, New Orleans, they had a lot of bad luck last year, in my opinion. They did.
New Orleans just seems like a bad luck place. It's because they do voodoo there, man. They do voodoo there. So
that's fair. That's fair. But maybe some of that voodoo will work well for Will Lutz. Because the only reason why I put Will Lutz there is because, New Orleans last year, they had a lot of problems in the red zone. A lot of problems. It's like they could get to the red zone, but I feel like they couldn't really capitalize on it as well as they could have or should have. So in comes Will Lutz. I think, New Orleans will again struggle this year, especially, if Alvin Kamara doesn't come back, within a timely manner, if he's still going to be suspended or not. And I think that's kind of why I put Will Lutz, in there because if nothing else, Will Lutz is there to put some points on the board for you, even if Kamara is not there or Jameis Winston can't do what he can.
They're not going to make it to the red zone, man. I'm going to let you in on that little secret. They're not going to make it.
Go for it. Go for
it. Okay. I also have one big thing also. I don't even have Robbie Gould on my list, and you have Robbie Gould at 3.
I'll get to him here in a second. Let me hear your secret first before I get into Robbie Gould.
Oh, my secret is that Justin Tucker is and will always be the best kicker. Okay.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
Oh yeah.
That's all you need to know. That Harrison Buckner guy, you need to take him and just move him a little bit further down. And I don't know. I just kind of
okay
a little bit differently, and it might just be because I don't put kickers in such a high regard in my fantasy, and that may be why I see them the way that I see them, which doesn't make it wrong, but it's just I don't know. You give me. All right, we're gonna take this and spin this a little bit. From your list of 12, give me your top 5 from your list. If you had to pick however you want to pick. They don't have to. They don't have to be number 5 for them to be number 5. Just take this list right here and tell me who you feel is the best kickers on your list based on how you have it.
Justin Tucker, number 1 overall. Now with best kickers, let's throw this out there a little bit. Are we talking in like clutch situations, or who's going to like, be consistent?
Put that all together.
Okay. Justin Tucker, number 1, because he's performed well under pressure. He's performed well in late games. He puts points up no matter what. I would put Robbie Gould at number 2 behind him because he's come up with some, in clutch situations as well. Let's see. I would say Nick Folk. Evan McPherson, and Mason Crosby. In that order.
All right. Go ahead.
Now, I want to know why Daniel Carlson is number 2 on your list. That's what had me confused earlier. Is just like when we were talking about it, it's just like Daniel Carlson, number 2?
I just look at the addition of Davante Adams automatically creates an uptick in what I feel would be Daniel Carlson's usage for Las Vegas because their offense just got a lot better.
Okay, then.
So I feel like with another player that's able to, he's a more developed Cooper Kupp. He plays very, very well in the slot, but he also plays very, very well on the outside. And he also plays very, very, very well, anywhere else. You could put him on the left. You could put him on the right. Davante Adams has been very consistent. He has had the injury bug just a little bit. Just a little bit. But
just slightly.
He has been a very effective piece. By adding that very effective piece to an already pretty good offense, you make that pretty good offense above average and slightly elite. And that automatically creates an uptick in extra points, field goal chances, in my mind anyway. That equates to more offensive production. So that creates Daniel Carlson being number 2. It also be my little secret. I feel like Las Vegas is going to surprise a lot of people how good they're going to be this year. Not just AFC wise, NFL team wise. A lot of people are going to be really surprised how the culture in that team as a whole changes with the new regime and bringing in Davante Adams to play along with his college buddy. I'm just
listen. The only reason why I Daniel Carlson, granted, maybe it's a whole thing in Minnesota with kickers, but like the only thing I could picture Daniel Carlson is, a few years back, we had a chance to win the game against Green Bay, and he just shanks it like so far left. It just blew my mind, and that's why I was like, Daniel Carlson too? But no, I see your point though. I mean,
he's finished 4th the last 2 years. 40 of 43 last year, 33 of 35 the year before. Like, he's the highest rated kicker based on projections. He finished 4th last year, despite leading the NFL in kicks attempts. He does have K1 upside, definitely.
yeah,
Because he's in a high-powered offense, and he's got a very accurate leg, which is not much. Which is an accurate younger leg.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair then.
Because Nick Folk has a better pedigree. Matt Gay has a better pedigree. Harrison Buckner has a better pedigree. But their legs are a little bit older. So
yeah, that makes sense then.
Because it's like splitting hairs, man. It's really, to be honest, it's like splitting hairs. Because if you look at last year, Matt Gay was fifth. He played all 17 games,
Mm-hmm.
32 of 34, 48 extra point kicks. So he got 48 points from extra points last year.
Right.
So that's just easy money. That's just easy money when you have a high-powered offense that can score. So you can see that. The reason I don't have, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, Matt Gay, is because there's still question marks along their offense.
Right.
Wide receivers in particular. You lost Robert Woods. You know, OBJ, if he does come back, may not even be healthy to start the year because of the knee. So how are we going to address that? So I just, and he's a little bit older, but I believe in Daniel Carlson. He's very accurate. And he plays in a very, 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 very good position right now. He's in a very good position.
Especially in that AFC West, which I'm sure you, me, everyone and their brother is expecting a lot of big things out of the AFC West.
Shootouts.
So yeah, I can see your point as to why Daniel Carlson would be number 2, but yeah. So let's see here. We have Justin Tucker 1. You have Daniel Carlson 2. I have Harrison Butker 2. I think the reason why I still put Harrison Butker in there. Listen, I know we're all expecting the shoe to drop with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
We're expecting them to kind of, not really stumble per se, but not to
Just
be
regress.
not a whole lot, but enough to where it won't be the same as in years past.
There you go.
But I still think they're going to be somewhat of a higher powered offense, just not like previous years. So I think that's why, I still play Harrison Butker too, because like I mentioned earlier, I mean, this is how I determine what kicker I'm going to take. It's like, okay, if not Justin Tucker, what offense is going to put up the most points on a week-to-week basis?
Yes, there you go. And that is something we really have to take stock of. Like, if I look at a team, I'm not going and picking up, just throw off the top of my head, Young Wei Koo. He's a good kicker. He's a very accurate kicker with a lot of power in his leg, but he plays for a dud of an offense. So he may not get as many opportunities. Not to get a little bit ahead of myself. He may not get as many opportunities, but that may change. But I can't put him in this list because he's not playing for a high-powered offense, or at least an above-average offense, in my mind, which all 12 of these do.
I was going to say, I think for me, that's why I put Robbie Gould at 3. Because, I mean, San Francisco, they are that team that's, they're hit and miss. I'm not going to lie about it. But Robbie Gould, he's been in the league since 2005. And, there for a while, I would have, during the early part of his career, I would have considered him one of the top, kickers to take for fantasy. Maybe not so much now, but I mean, you're talking over the past, let's see, 6 seasons. His season in New York, he was 100%. That was 2016. His first year in San Francisco, 2017, 95.1% accuracy. 2018, 97. 2019, he did struggle a lot. The past 2 seasons, he's been in that, mid-tier. 82%, in 2020, and 87% in 2021. But, there for a while, San Francisco, they were lights out on a week-to-week basis. So as far as point after attempts, Robbie Gould was, pretty golden, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I picked Nick Folk because last year, after not being as good, he finished the number 1 kicker overall last year. With He was fifth in field goal percentage. He connected on 90% of his field goals over 30 plus yards. Um, he's another one of those older guys that could regress, but I just look at his pedigree over the last. He finished in 2019. He finished 32 overall. 2020 he finished 18th, but he did only play 7 games. And 2019 he played 16 games in 2020. It was pretty accurate, 26 to 28 of field goals, 30 extra points. Last year he kicked a lot of extra point kicks. He got 42 with 36 to 39 on field goals. He finished first, so I have to bank on him to at least, if he regresses on extra points a little bit. But his field goal kicking is undeniable at this point. So it's kind of like a coin flip. Who can you depend on to be a little bit more consistent? And I'm leaning a little bit more towards Nick Folk. I see you have him at 5, but, and I have Harrison Buckner at 5.
I was going to say, we've touched on Nick Folk and Harrison Butker there. Let's see. I have Ryan Suckup at 6. You have him at 7. You have Tyler Bass at 6, and I have him at 7.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think we're somewhat in agreement on who is going to, put up a decent amount of points for kickers for your fantasy teams.
Yeah.
I think the reason why I gave the slight edge to Ryan Suckup is because, Tampa Bay, they're going to do
what they're going to
Tom
do.
Brady. Yeah, they're going to do what they're going to do with Tom Brady. They're going to score. If they don't score a touchdown, they're going to be in a position where Suckup can kick a field goal. Like, I think that's kind of why I put him slightly over Tyler Bass. I mean, I know he's kind of in the same situation with Buffalo, but I don't know. I think I'm a little bit more reliable on Ryan Suckup there.
It's just high power. It's just 2 high power teams slugging it out. Who's going to get more opportunities?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Suckup edged him a little bit, but I really feel a little bit different about Tyler Bass. He's in a more volatile environment in Buffalo, to say the least. But I really feel like the offense is going to produce a little bit better. We talked about it before. I continue to beat that nail a little bit ahead, but I really feel like they're going to have a bigger opportunity. He's going to have a bigger opportunity, but it's splitting hairs. Could be a week to week thing. I'm kind of pissed that you as a Minnesota fan didn't think anything of your boy Greg Joseph.
It was tough.
I'm going to defend Greg Joseph right now to you. I'm going to defend him.
Go for it.
I'm going to defend Greg Joseph's honor right now. You hear what I'm saying?
Go for it. Because I want to hear it. I want to hear all about it.
Okay. As we all know, he missed 2020, so we don't have those stats to go off of. But he only played 2 games in 2018, so that's kind of like a throwaway. But last year, he played all 17 games. He did miss 5 field goals. Some of them were very crucial field goals. So I understand. But he's young, and he's an accurate kicker. He still finished 7th with 33 or 38. He's a young kicker. He has missed the weekly top 3 he missed the top 3 last year by fewer than 7 points. So that lets you know how closely he's bracketed with the guys that were ahead of him. And we've already heard about some of the guys that were ahead of him, like Nick Folk, Matt Gay, Harrison Buckner. Some of those guys, he's like right there. Justin Tucker, he's like right there. And he's young. So he has the opportunity to get better. It's just really how well the offense runs this year. With Adam Thielen, question marks with the health of the running back. You guys have Madison, who's actually pretty good. He's underrated in my mind. Your offense is underrated. I see Kirk Cousins the same way I see Matt Ryan. He'll get you through it, but he may not wow you doing it. He may not put up all those astronomical numbers, but he's by far one of the most accurate quarterbacks and efficient quarterbacks in the league. they don't get all the shine, man, and this just pisses me off that they just can't put pieces around him. But I feel like Greg Joseph will have a lot of opportunities to kick the football because they
I
may
think
not
so.
score a lot of touchdowns, but I know they have the ability to move the ball and get at least the field goal range, which gives him opportunity. He's got to tighten
I
up
think
with that
so.
kick.
I think so too. And it did hurt a little bit not putting Greg Joseph up there. I'll admit that. But like you said, there were a lot of questions with Minnesota's offense, their offensive scheme. I'm hopeful as the durability of Dalvin Cook. Adam Thielen's getting a little bit older. He's starting to show some durability issues as well. Kirk Cousins, while he does have times where he shines, there's obviously times that he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hopeful with Minnesota's offense this year. I'm I want to see Greg Joseph, excel well at that position at kicker, but eh, at the moment there's just a lot of questions, and I think that's what kept Greg Joseph out of my top 12, and why I mean, you have Greg Joseph at 8. I put Rodrigo Blankenship at 8,
Mm-hmm.
and even though Rodrigo Blankenship is just this little guy,
Yep.
dude has a powerful leg.
Oh yeah, I got to see it a long while at Georgia. I have a lot of high respect for him as a kicker.
Oh yeah, like Grant last year. Okay, he was out, and I had a lot of high hopes. For Rodrigo, I was going to put him as my MVP for my fantasy team, but then he went out. With a leg injury, which it does kind of concern me a little bit as far as accuracy goes. But I still think he's going to have a lot of power behind that leg, and I think it's going to help Indy a lot. This upcoming season.
Yeah.
Now you have Rodrigo at 9,
Mm-hmm.
so let's hear your take on Rodrigo here.
Like I say, a lot of these guys here are kind of a coin flip, but what sets him up from being from going from being on my list to not being on my list at all is just their offense is mid tier, so I don't necessarily expect them to be too high powered. I have a lot of faith in Matt Ryan to get the ball to Michael Pittman, but
Hmm.
to what extent and how successful they'll be, that's still to be determined. The offense is not as set as I would like, and I believe in Blankenship. That's not the guy. I just don't know if they'll be able to get in position as much as maybe Greg Joseph or Ryan Zipper. You know,
Yeah, with high power offense, I think that's why for me for number 9 I put Evan McPherson for Cincinnati. I mean, listen, Joe Burrow is gonna do Joe Burrow things. You know, we talked about it last week how Cincinnati has arguably 3 wide receivers that could be number 1 on any other team.
yeah,
So, and not to mention you have well, I won't say great, above average receiving running back, and Joe Mixon. That ball's going to be spread around a lot to where you're going to score a lot of touchdowns and therefore give a lot of point after attempts to Evan McPherson.
there you go. Okay. Well, the only real difference is I don't have Matt Prater, I believe. I have Mason Crosby. Well, I have Matt Prater at 12. You have him at 11. It's kind of like a coin flip at this point. The only difference is
Yeah.
I have Brandon McManus and you don't.
Yes, because I have
Um,
Will Lutz.
yes, you have Will because you put Will Lutz in there. He's only finished in the top 10 once, Brandon McManus, but he finished 17th last year. His consistency has been a little bit off, but I attribute that a lot to to conditions in Denver, but he didn't get a lot of extra point opportunities. He had 33, which is slightly above average, but their team wasn't slightly above average, so I can understand why they had a little bit of difficulty then. But I feel like I'm not as sold on Russell Wilson, but I really feel like he'll help their team get significantly better. Because last year I probably wouldn't have ranked Brian McManus, you know. But this
Yeah.
year I kind of want to give him a chance. I think they got it. It's just his accuracy is a little bit of a question mark to me, so I'm kind of scared of him. I'll give him a shot. He's been in the league since 2014. Uh, he finished in the top 10 at number 9 in 2019. In 2020, he was 11. So he's just not a lot of extra point kicks, but he's pretty good. He's pretty consistent. It's just once he gets past the 45, he gets a little shaky. So,
Well, who knows? I mean, with McManus, I mean, with Denver picking up Russell Wilson, I mean, I don't expect him to turn things around in Denver, but you know, um, Russell Wilson did a lot of things in Seattle. It's no secret. He might do some decent things in Denver to where it opens up, the possibility of Brandon McManus finishing in the top 10, as far as kickers go in the NFL by season's end. But like you said, man, it's a coin flip with these kickers, and you, you just never know. I think we're both in agreement though that Justin Tucker is your surefire kicker.
yeah, surefire number
Like
one.
no matter the situation.
Yeah, barring any health issues, I believe he's automatic shoe in K1.
Right.
All right, now let's get to the next. Okay, all right, I'm gonna be short and sweet with these guys. Um, this really depends on the offense with Young Wei Koo. He's 27 to 29 last year, 93 percentile, so that's pretty good. He's pretty accurate from deep. He's a dome kicker. Who can hate on a dome kicker? Playing in the dome
Not
8 games
me.
a year, I can't hate on that. Your accuracy level probably goes up a little bit more because you're not having to deal with the elements. But he's fringe. It all really depends on whether or not Atlanta's offense is anywhere near average, and that would be the same with Chris Boswell. He had a top 10 finish last year. He was pretty accurate, being a kicker in Pittsburgh, which is something that is very good. So I really feel like if also with them, if their team is any good, then he could possibly be in the top 10, maybe top 8. You know, Jake Elliott, not so much. Maybe he can brush into the top 10 a little bit. He is also a very accurate kicker. It's a little bit older in age, but I really feel like Elliott has an opportunity to really knock the door open a little bit. Short and sweet. These guys are on the bottom, so with kickers, you're not really looking for someone to go up and score you 25, 30 points a game, but you get that consistent 7, 8, 9, 10, sometimes 12 on a good day. That can really help you. That can really make a break. Who wins that?
Yeah, for me, I went with Young Hui Q. Very accurate kicker, 27 to 29. I think he's going to have a decent year. With Atlanta adding to their offense, granted it's not eye popping by any means, but I
It's
do
bargain bin
see.
shopping, definitely.
I'm sorry.
It's bargain bin shopping, definitely.
Yeah, but like you said, man, like a lot of it's going to depend on how Atlanta does throughout the season, on what kind of on how Young Hui does.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm hopeful for him. I really am. Will Lutz, listen,
We talk about this man too much.
yeah, I did, I'll admit, but I do see him as a little bit of a sleeper this year. If New Orleans does struggle, in the red zone, I think it will bode well for Will Lutz to where he can get you those points. I'm
Yeah.
not saying he's going to put out, like you said, nowhere near like 25, 25 points. You're not going to really get that from a kicker, except for like maybe once in a blue moon type of ordeal.
Yeah.
But, if you can get a consistent kicker to give you like 7, 8, 9, 10 points,
That's what you need.
that's really what you want in your in your kicker, just consistency. And I see that out of Will Lutz.
Yes. That's a good pick. All right. Now, for my non-starters, we start with Zane Gonzalez. If I can't consistently count on you to play a full season or anywhere close to it, he's averaged 12 games over the last 2 seasons. That's a no-go. Struggles with accuracy, and as a dome kicker struggling with accuracy, that's a no-go. Next on the list, Jason Sanders, kicker from Miami. The biggest eye-popping stat for me was he dropped from kicker 1 in 2020 to kicker 20 in 2020. So he regressed a lot. And that's not something that's very good to see out of a young kicker. I don't know if it's in his head or if it's in his leg. If it's in his leg or in his head, either way it goes, it's no brainer. Last but not least, Cairo Santos. I kind of want to stay away from Cairo Santos because of that big number you see right there, 86% of his field goals made. It's not something that I really like to see, especially in a place where you have to deal with the elements a lot more. I really feel like he's not a good kicker, and it won't bode well for you if you pick him.
Yeah, for me, I went with Jason Sanders. He had a lot of accuracy issues last year, 23 of 31. Like you said, kicker 1 in 2020 to kicker 20 in 2021. Like you said, man, yeah. And personally, I hate to see that as well out of a kicker or out of a young kicker. Because it's only a matter of time before you're out of a job if you're missing that many kicks.
There you go.
And Jason Myers from Seattle, I don't see a really good year out of him. I think there's too many contingencies with his season. First and foremost, what's Drew Lock going to do with that Seattle offense?
It looks like that offense is going to burn. It's going to burn up. It's not good. I'm not a Drew Lock fan, but I do think some of the players on that team are quarterback proof, but it's not going to help the kicker. It's not going to help the offense really much. You're right. I totally missed that.
It's gonna be one of those. We'll see what Pete Carroll can do, but I don't see Jason Myers, having a stellar year as far as kickers go. So, but yeah, I think that about wraps it up.
About sums it up. All right. Let me ask you another question. That's just last question. If you were picking a defense that you see, what defense do you see the most potential in that we may have not talked about it as much?
Defense with the most potential that we did not talk about. I don't know. I think I'm going to have to go with possibly the Titans.
Oh.
And the only reason why, with Mike Vrabel still, at the helm of that team, the head coach, in my opinion, I think he was a, above average defensive player. And he's turned into a very well, defensive-minded coach. And, obviously in Tennessee, you're going to talk a lot about Derrick Henry. I don't think we hear enough about that defense, in my opinion. because even when Derrick Henry went down, you know, Tannehill he struggled a little bit, and I think that defense bailed Tennessee out quite a lot. And there was a reason why they were the number one overall seed in the AFC last year. Granted, yeah, they kind of blew it in divisional, but you know that is what it is. So I think Tennessee they have a little bit of potential, and you know I almost put them in my top 12, but I just couldn't bring myself to doing it.
Feel you. I
How
hear
about
you.
how about you?
You're not gonna like my answer.
Okay.
I know you're not gonna like my answer. I say
Uh
it's the Jacksonville Jaguars.
oh.
Um,
I
they
don't
showed a
I
lot of
don't hate it.
approval. They have Calais Campbell, who's considered the top defensive player in free agency this year. They now include that front with Malik Jackson, who had 6.5 sacks. I'm gonna mess this name up. Yannick Goku, who had 8 sacks, and now they also brought Dante Fowler back.
Hmm.
Am I reading those right? No, we're wrong. Never mind. I'm sorry. Never mind. Completely disregard what I was reading. I was reading an old thing from 2017. It's still the Jacksonville Jaguars, but it's for a totally different reason. It's not because of Calais Campbell. It's because of the draft picks. There we go. They have a budding defensive line that's starting to play better. They've brought in a lot of talent defensive wise. Me personally, I thought they should have brought in Aiden Hutchinson, but they saw something that I didn't see. But that's not to say that what they brought will not impact their team in a positive way. I just feel moving forward with the removal of Urban Meyer, they're going to establish a little bit of culture. They're playing a pretty lax defense. Pretty lax division. So they're room for improvement. I'm not saying they're going to blow the doors off the walls, but I can see them being a top 12 team. I can see them just bear crawling into number 12 because their defense is that good. Well,
I can see
it
it.
could
I
be
mean,
that.
like I said, I don't hate it. There's a lot of what ifs, but I could see it. Let's see. One last thing before we wrap up. I did make one minor mistake with Baltimore's draft picks. I
Mm-hmm.
said Jordan Davis. I meant to
Mm-hmm.
say David Ajabo, and brought in, or also they brought in Travis Jones. That was
Okay.
my mistake, but I caught it. So I'll admit when I'm wrong. So
There you go. There you go.
yeah.
Right.
Either way, I still go by my claim. I find I still think that Baltimore is going to find their way into the
Mm-hmm.
top 10, maybe top 8 defenses by season's end. So, well, we hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. This one took a lot of time to really research, and
Yes,
at least for me, I can't really speak for you, Jay, but to
it did.
actually
It took a lot.
actually look in depth with defenses and figure out who has who, what areas could definitely use some help, from team to teams.
Definitely.
But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun because, at least for me in years past, I just kind of wait around, and just pick a defense in like the very like later rounds, and to go about it this way, it definitely put a different perspective on it. How about you, Jay?
Definitely. It makes you respect defenses and kickers a little bit more because you have after doing the research and actually seeing what kind of effect they actually had on fantasy last year and in years past just gives you a better appreciation of what they can do for your team. Because I can definitely tell you this: a lot of tiebreakers have been broken, a lot of games have been those last bit of few points. Guy has I have just a kicker left, and he has two players left to play, and my kicker just needs just enough points to hold on to win that week. It helps, you know. So I hope, really hope that what the information that we've given out tonight will be very beneficial. In the coming weeks, things will change. Some things will drastically change. That we're talking about people that we weren't even supposedly thinking that we're talking about, but we're in the early starts here, and once preseason gets going, we'll give you guys some much needed tips. I don't know actually where we're going to go next week, but we're going to probably do a couple profiles, a couple deep dives, maybe a couple tiers for quarterbacks and position players and such for you daily fantasy players. But all right, well, I'm Bugman J,
I'm Matt.
and this is Armchair GMs brought to you by Jocks of All Trades podcast. You guys have a good night.
Good night, y'all.